to The Fitterist Show with your host, Christopher Allen, where we explore the art of mind and body conditioning. This week, we take a look at a number of current news stories in the health and fitness world. First up, you might have heard about vitamin K, but a new study posits that it offers promising benefits for not only bone and heart health, but could lessen the severity of COVID-19 infections. Next, we review some foods that cause stomach bloating and how you can reduce gut inflammation and improve your overall GI tract health. Finally, we all know that adopting a healthy lifestyle is good for you, but a recent Harvard study links a healthy lifestyle with added lifespan. You might be surprised how many years a change in lifestyle can add to your life. So, let's dive in. Our first story is about vitamin K. Should you take it? Some patients who have died who have been hospitalized as a result of the coronavirus have reportedly been found to be deficient in vitamin K, according to scientists in the Netherlands, who hope to further explore if taking a vitamin K supplement could help prevent the severity of a COVID-19 infections. So researchers were studying patients who were admitted at a hospital in the Dutch city of Nijmegen that have extolled the benefits of vitamin K after discovering a link between deficiency and the worst coronavirus outcomes. So the study itself, which was done again in the Netherlands, was recently just submitted for peer review, studied 134 coronavirus patients who were hospitalized between March 12th and April 11th. Patients were compared to a control group of 184 patients who were not infected with COVID-19. Now, many of the patients who died or were hospitalized were reportedly found to be deficient in vitamin K, which is a vitamin that's found in leafy greens such as kale and spinach and makes proteins for healthy bones and normal blood clotting. More specifically, that ability to regulate clotting is what the researchers hope could help protect against severe COVID-19 outcomes, as the novel disease has been known to cause dangerous and potentially deadly blood clots in some patients. So let's talk a little bit about vitamin K. Vitamin K is known as the blood clotting vitamin, if you will, for its important role in clotting and healing wounds. The K in vitamin K is actually derived from the German word coagulation. Bit of a fun factoid. It also plays an important role in bone health. The sources of vitamin K include generally leafy green vegetables. So these are things like kale, parsley, collards, romaine lettuce, spinach, Swiss chard, turnip greens, as well as some vegetables like broccoli, some Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, and cabbage. All the stuff that most American diets are probably lacking. However, vitamin K does show up, although in much less quantities, in things like meats, fish, liver, eggs. The benefits of vitamin K are generally in three areas. The first is around bone health. There appears to be a correlation between the intake of vitamin K and osteoporosis. Several studies have suggested that vitamin K supports the maintenance of strong bones, improves a little bit of the bone density, and decreases the risk of fractures, particularly as you might get older. There's not a lot of research, though, on that particular topic. Second benefit of vitamin K is cognitive health. Increased blood levels of vitamin K have been linked with improved episodic memory in older adults. In one study, healthy individuals over the age of 70 years with the highest blood levels of vitamin K1 had the highest verbal episodic memory performance. Again, not a plethora of research on that, but it does appear to at least be linked to improved cognitive health. A third benefit of vitamin K is around heart health. And vitamin K can help keep blood pressure lower by preventing mineralization, where minerals kind of build up in the arteries, thereby inhibiting their flow. If you have sufficient levels of vitamin K, it enables the heart to pump blood more freely throughout the body. And as mineralization naturally occurs with age, it can be a major risk factor for heart disease. So again, if you take vitamin K, it can or has been shown to lower the risk of stroke. And of course, one of the most important things about vitamin K is its ability with regard to wound healing. Vitamin K actually produces or helps to produce 4 of the 13 different proteins needed for blood clotting. So it's a huge component of proper blood clotting. On the dosage side, the recommended daily allowance for vitamin K really depends on a number of variables, including age, gender, your weight. However, the suggested RDA is typically 70 to 100 micrograms for adults, according to the National Library of Medicine. But it can vary. So to give you an idea of food equivalency, 1 cup of raw chopped kale has 472 micrograms of vitamin K. So that's about 7 times the recommended daily allowance. So it's not super difficult to get your vitamin K, but how many people are having a full cup of raw chopped kale on a regular basis? Vitamin K is fat soluble, so it is stored in the body for prolonged periods of time. There's not really a huge, toxic dose of vitamin K, given that most people are probably deficient. And there's no harmful effects in taking, a higher level of vitamin K in your diet. But in general, they recommend that you stay at the highest level below 1 milligram of vitamin K daily. So the researchers, as a next step, are now seeking funding for a clinical trial. And the researchers in general think that it's a good idea to probably take vitamin K. Even if it doesn't necessarily help against severe COVID-19, it's still probably good for your blood vessels, bones, and probably also for the lungs. And one of the things the researchers want to do in that clinical trial is to understand what is the high enough dose of vitamin K that will really activate the protein that is specifically important for protecting the lungs, and to see if that dosage of vitamin K is safe within that clinical trial research. Finally, the research team also reiterated that they have learned over time you certainly can't treat diseases through one aspect of your diet. You have to focus on everything you eat. Too much of anything, including vitamin K, can be harmful, especially people with liver disease. You're much better off practicing just physical distancing, hand washing, face masks to prevent COVID-19 than simply saying, I'm going to take some vitamin K and I'll be fine. And I will also link to the full study in the show notes at www.fitterist.com/065 for episode 65 for those interested in learning more. Our second story is about foods that cause your stomach to bloat. Now, stomach bloating is a normal and natural part of life. However, there are some foods that definitely cause more stomach bloat than others. There are certain nutrients found in foods that our bodies have trouble digesting, and a lot of these are usually referred to as FODMAP foods. Now, FODMAP stands for fermentable oligodimonosaccharides and polyols, hence the acronym FODMAP. These are generally short-chain carbohydrates that can't really be digested by the small intestine, so instead they end up in the large intestine, where they're fermented by bacteria. The fermentation process results in gas and bloating. So if you're having difficulty with digestion, or you just want to debloat or see what foods might cause you to bloat, here is a short list of foods that you may want to avoid. First on the list is sodium. Now, most Americans consume way more salt than the recommended daily amount. Most people should be capping their sodium intake at around 2,300 milligrams per day. If you are over the age of 50, have diabetes or high blood pressure, it's even lower. You should only be consuming about 1,500 milligrams per day. So there's salt in a ton of packaged and processed foods, frozen foods, canned soups, deli meats, sauces. All of those typically have a lot of sodium. Our body's natural reaction to eating too much salt is basically to retain water. And when the body holds on to too much water, it starts to bloat. Second up on the list is dairy products. Now, dairy is highly nutritious and a great source of calcium and protein, and there are many dairy products available. Things like milk, cheese, cream cheese, butter, yogurt. However, roughly about 70+% of the world's population has trouble breaking down lactose, which is the sugar found in milk. And this condition, as you may be aware, is known as lactose intolerance. And if you are lactose intolerant, dairy can cause major digestive problems, including bloating, gas, and cramping. Luckily, there are a lot of alternatives in the marketplace for dairy substitutes like soy or almond milk, which are ideal for those who are lactose intolerant. Number 3 is soda. Not too surprising, carbonated drinks are a pretty common source of bloating. These drinks contain high amounts of carbon dioxide, which is the gas that gives it the fizz. So when you drink one of these beverages, you end up swallowing large amounts of this gas. And some of that gas gets trapped in the digestive system, which can cause bloating or even uncomfortableness and potentially cramping. Number 4 on the list is beans. They contain a high amount of protein and some healthy carbs, but they're also very rich in fibers as well as vitamins and minerals. But most beans also contain sugars called alpha galactosides, which belong to a group of carbs, again, in the FODMAP. So they miss digestion and are actually fermented by gut bacteria in the colon. And so gas is a natural byproduct of this process. Number 5 on the foods that could make you bloat is wheat. Now, a lot of people talk about wheat because it contains gluten. And despite it being somewhat controversial, wheat is still widely consumed. It's an ingredient that's in a lot of breads, pastas, pizzas, tortillas, baked goods, cookies, pancakes, waffles. But for people that have sensitivity to gluten, wheat causes some major digestive problems, including bloating, gas, diarrhea, and maybe stomach pain. So wheat is something you might want to look at if you feel bloated after consuming it. Number 6, alcohol. Just like high sodium foods, alcohol generally causes the body to retain water, leading to some puffiness and bloating. Drinking can also trigger constipation, which leaves people feeling bloated as well. And remember, things like beer, it's a carbonated beverage. So it's got fermentable carbs like barley and wheat and rice, along with yeast and water. So it can easily cause bloating because it's got both gas in form of carbon dioxide and the fermentable carbs. Both are well-known causes of bloating. Plus you've got the grains in the beer, which often contain gluten. So it can be a double or triple whammy. That's alcohol. Number 7, cruciferous vegetables. So these are vegetables like broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, and kale, all fall under the category of cruciferous vegetables. These foods are high in a number of great nutrients. They're even thought to help prevent cancer and part of any good, healthy diet. But they also contain raffinose, which is a type of carbohydrate that our bodies can't really break down because we lack a certain enzyme to do so. So this is then fermented by bacteria, again, a primary cause of gas and bloating. One thing you can do if you still love these vegetables is you can roast or steam them. This will help make them a little bit easier to digest. And number 8 on the list is artificial sweeteners. Now, many people gravitate and move toward artificial sweeteners because they have no calories and it's a great sugar substitute in a lot of cases. But some of the sweeteners take a long time, particularly xylitol and sorbitol, take a long time for the small intestine to digest. So these substances, especially if taken in a higher quantity, can definitely lead to bloating. If you have problems with bloating in general, chances are pretty good that a food that I just covered, of the previous 8, is probably the culprit. But you don't have to avoid all of these foods. You need to just do testing to figure out which foods trigger bloating for you personally. If you find that food consistently makes you bloated, just avoid it. It's probably not worth suffering through the bloating when there are easy substitutes in almost every one of these categories. Our third news item is a study coming out of Harvard that talks about adopting 5 particular habits in middle age that can add years to your life. So this new study, researchers at Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health, and which was published in BMJ, suggests that implementing these 5 habits into your life can increase your likelihood of enjoying extra years of overall good health and boosting your life expectancy. That sounds intriguing. So let's take a look at what are the 5 practices you should begin in middle age. By the way, you don't have to start these in middle age. You have to wait till you're middle age to start these. You can start them whenever you want. Start them in 20s. But if you start them in middle age, it will help ward off chronic disease later in life. Number 1 is a healthy diet. And this was determined as a high score on the alternate healthy eating index. And generally this means that you're eating a good, well-balanced diet with the appropriate macronutrient balance of carbohydrates, protein, and fats, healthy fats. Number 2, maintaining a healthy weight. This is generally in the study was determined by having a body mass index, BMI, between 18.5 and 24.9. Number 3 is exercising regularly. Their definition of exercising regularly means exercise a minimum of 30 minutes a day with moderate to vigorous activity levels. Number 4 is limiting alcohol consumption. And again, moderate alcohol consumption means an individual consumes 1 or fewer servings per day for women and 2 or few servings per day for men. That seems pretty lenient to me. But we move on. Number 5, not smoking. Not smoking, I love these studies when they have to define all the variables. Not smoking means that the individual does not smoke and refrains from smoking in their daily lives, in case the not smoking part wasn't ultra clear. So the researchers had previously found that following a healthy lifestyle improves overall life expectancy in general and reduces risk of chronic diseases such as diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and cancer, but fewer studies had really looked at the effects of lifestyle factors on life expectancy free from such diseases. So this study provides evidence that following a healthy lifestyle can substantially extend the years a person lives disease-free. Let's take a look at the research study methodology and the results. This is a great longitudinal study. The researchers used data from 2 prior studies, which allowed them to look at data from over 73,000 women over 34 years and 38,000 men over 28 years. Like many health matters, the results were different for men than for women. The women who practiced none of the 5 healthy habits at age 50 lived about 23.7 years free of diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and cancer. However, the women who did practice either 4 or 5 of these healthy habits, again at age 50, lived 34.4 more years free of these chronic diseases. So the data in this study would suggest that there is a potential gain of nearly 11 healthy years for women who maintain these healthy habits in middle age and beyond. 11 years. For men, they saw a slightly less benefit from practicing these healthy habits, but the men who did not practice any of these habits at age 50 could expect to live 23.5 years free of chronic disease, while the men who did practice these healthy habits on a regular basis lived an average of 31.1 healthier years. So on the male side, the potential gain of almost 8 years additional disease free. So when you look at quality of life, 8 years for men, 11 years for women, that's pretty dramatic. The researchers also found that smoking and obesity were the most negatively affected long-term outcomes. So if you had to pick something, those are the 2 that moved the needle the most. Individuals who were obese or were heavy smokers had the lowest disease-free life expectancy. Those are the 2 big ones to make sure you keep under control. Overall, the researchers observed that a healthier lifestyle was associated with a lower risk of cancer, cardiovascular disease, and diabetes, as well as mortality, with an increased total life expectancy and number of years lived free of these diseases. Overall, better quality of life for a longer period of time. Their findings would suggest that a promotion of a healthy lifestyle would help to reduce healthcare burdens through lowering the risk of developing these chronic diseases, right? And extending life expectancy. So I found this study very unique, very powerful in that it was a longitudinal study over a long period of time that measured specific, measurable healthy habits and their impact on lifespan. Pretty impressive results. I will link to the full Harvard study on these lifestyle habits in the show notes, again at www.fitterist.com/065 for those interested in gaining more insight and detail. That's it for this week. We'll see you next week. With that, I'd like to thank you for taking the time to listen to The Fitterist Show. You can follow us on Instagram at FitteristMindBody and on Twitter at FitteristMind. If you enjoyed this episode, please send it to a friend or subscribe to make sure you don't miss any future episodes of The Fitterist Show. My name is Christopher Allen, and make it a magical day.